Hey, so this is Karai with Deliberate Wactus, and we're going to be reviewing a first to 10 put in by Bolt and Ignatius from, I think, Neverwinter or Winter's Edge. Um, looks like we're doing some board. I've seen like little bits of this video before, but I decided to go back and just kind of take it all from the beginning before I get too many opinions. So here we go. So Ignatius opening with a testing um, shot from range. There's a lot of hand motion, but he's holding his shield overall pretty low. And then when he steps in, as his shot connects, he ends up squaring up his torso just a touch. And because of the length of the step that he took, right? So we can see here, he's just got a nice wide lunge. Problem is that this is going to end up lowering his shoulders here, right? Because if we wind that back, let's see here. So let's go back a little bit from here. Right? So nobody's ever going to necessarily just stay in the same spot. But yeah, as you can see as we go through this, his shoulders dip quite a bit. His guard stays in the same position. The problem here is that he doesn't project his guard out, maybe a little further this way, or at least bring the shield up where it's, above the level of his shoulder here. So when Bolt when Bolt throws, he gets this nice, easy, straight shot right to the shoulder here, right over the top. So, just a note when you're closing and you're using a punch shield like that, especially a smaller one, you really want to make sure that you're projecting or raising your board. You're keeping it proactive because you are not going to have that passive defense that comes from a larger shield.
Bolt one.
Okay, good exchange here. Ignatius really trying to dig for that high cross, and then just not quite able to get the shot in there. So this is a slightly longer one. Let's see here. Put it down to half speed. So Ignatius very active with his sword, with his threat, taking up a lot of space. He does a good job of leaving an opening for Bolt to attack and then covering over. Unfortunately, he doesn't quite get anything off of the counter. Bolt was able to get that shield over enough, it looks like. A safe chop to force the shield back, and Ignatius here in a pretty exposed position, going to go ahead and start to reach a little further. And so oftentimes when you have an opponent who has a really stable guard, one of the things that you'll start to see is people start to reach a little bit further. They throw from further away. They lean with their hips back like this. They, leave the ground here with a jump to try and get over top of the shoulder. There's a lot that could be done here, and unfortunately, because Ignatius is on a bit of a back, wow, I can't talk, on the back foot a bit here. While he's able to stop Bolt's approach by pushing his weight back, you see how his shoulders now behind his hips here, so his weight is a little bit backwards, which stops his approach. It doesn't end up going anywhere just by, let's see here. You get a bit of a headshot. They kind of reset. Another opener to the sword side of the board by Ignatius. And I think that's something we're probably going to see pretty regularly here, right? And this is another very common thing, is like you get a little too devoted to trying to go over, right? Trying to go for that inside cross. Bolt's got a safe position here. He's keeping his hand, once it goes out to swing, it comes back home pretty quickly. So we see a high cross and a jump, and then because of the way that Ignatius's feet end up, where they're facing that way, his hips are completely turned, we're going to see him spin through. Right, almost. Oh, yeah. Well, a little overestimated on that. So it's a good attempt with a pump fake. I don't think he sold it quite well enough. If we watch that in full speed, we can see that it looks like it's somewhat non-committal. Bolt is able to push in, read the dip, get the shield up out of the way, and throw. And I think there's some really prime opportunities here for Ignatius to start building fakes, building feints in, and taking advantage of Bolt's expectations for his pre-programmed feints. Or his pre-programmed shots, rather. Just watch a few through here and see. And there we see another opening right to the sword side of the shield. Bolt punishes him by reaching underneath, and then holds a static position, throws underneath the leg. And another opener to the sword side. Loses his shield arm. Gets stuffed out again. So that's 4 up Bolt, I want to say. Yeah. And each time Ignatius is started by throwing to the sword side. Yeah, it looked like about the same. He really loves to throw that cross. Now what happened there? It looks like... Ooh, okay. So what we've got here, right? There's some really good jockeying for position. Ignatius is again taking a really wide stance. Gets himself kind of stuck because he's so low. Bolt throws in. Gets the board to start drifting up. Drops the hand a little bit and throws that cross. Now, is that a... Yeah, not quite a... not quite a reverse wrap, which is the kind of thing that I might expect here. It looks like he flexed his wrist really hard to get that extra reach, but didn't really turn the hand, which might have gotten him deeper penetration. Now here was a great opportunity for Ignatius to project his guard outward, right? So because of where he's at with his, hands back here in close proximity to his body, and they're separate. They're separated pretty far because he's trying to read where this hand is going to go, right? because this sword can go around here for the shoulder, it can go, down here for the hip, or it can go straight in like it did for the body. I know this is a little messy, but bear with me here. So if Ignatius brings the shield out a little bit, right? Pardon my lack of straight lines. Then what we start to get is this better shadow of protection, as far as just what all it can protect, or what all Bolt is able to attack meaningfully, right? Because I know a lot of you are going to be fairly familiar with the idea of cones, right? And so there's a cone coming from Bolt's sword side shoulder to Ignatius's shoulders. I know it's a little hard to kind of see here, but the further out into this cone that your guard is projected, the narrower that cone's going to get. And actually, here, let me do it like this. Looks like we got lines here. I don't have lines. Never mind. So there's one going from here over to the shoulder on that side, and there's one going from here to the shoulder on this side. So, widest part, narrowest part. Ignatius is trying to block on one of the wider parts of the cone here. If he projects his guard out, he gets to the narrow part, meaning he has less distance he has to travel to get an effective block. Having his feet so far apart and kind of trapped there where he's not in a great position to move, he needs to be able to reset. So one of the things I would recommend here would be, like I said, project that guard out, and then once he's got a safe block, go ahead and try to return somehow to the arm or to the leg, just something to get Bolt off of him enough that he can recover his stance and reset range, and kind of start the fight again from there. So there we go. And part of this as well, and I don't mean to rag necessarily, but if you look at the difference in their faces, right? One of the things that you can see here in Bolt is this kind of general calm determination, which I know seems kind of silly, but like it matters. Having a calm mindset, having a collected mindset matters. And if you watch Ignatius's face the last couple of rounds, you can kind of see him getting a little frustrated, it looks like. And maybe he was more calm in the moment, but it tends to look like he's frustrated and not really present in the moment of the fight. There's ideas about what he wants to do, but he hasn't quite gotten them to go yet. So that's something to watch out for when you're doing these kind of competitive things.
Iggy one.
There we go. All right, what do we got here? That was really nice. He threw something else. So let's slow that down. Looked like a nice circle feint into hip, perhaps. And it was a different location and also at a tempo that I don't think Ignatius has thrown before. Generally, he takes a lot more time to kind of set up the fight as far as like reaching for that sword side and making his opponent, or trying to get his opponent to throw across or outside for him. All right, so what do we got? He does a little pump and a rock. Starts it as a dark side, comes all the way around. Bolt has again shifted his weight back. Now he's not as bad as before, where his shoulders are really far behind his hips. But he does have his weight back just a little bit. And you can see he's starting to catch himself there. Because of that, his hips are forward, his torso is slanted back slightly. Oop, come on. Ignatius throws a nice outside, oh yeah, right into the hip. And especially as Bolt dips forward, and there it is, you see his hips are far ahead of his shoulders, his weight is back, he can't move, his front heel is planted, right? And we've got this great angle of penetration here. Even if that didn't hit body, if that just hit like, it's too high to be leg. It could be arm potentially, right? Like he might get that elbow in the way or something like that, but even then, it's a bad position to be in. All Ignatius has to do is just follow up with a simple double tap or some other shot anywhere else while Bolt is recovering his posture, and he's got it. But he got it on that first one. It's a good shot, Ignatius. And he got the block. Good stuff. There we go. And you can see a little bit of a change in demeanor. Starting to get a little more aggressive.
Iggy 2.
Okay. And there's the smile. Okay, he's in it. So let's see here. It looks like Bolt throws a kind of reachy cross. Oop. And Ignatius is able to throw over top. It's really nice. Nope, I just saw that one. Oh. I like that setup. That's a cool setup there. The circle feint into stab, right? So he does that rock. Now, so during his setups, I'm going to be watching for this, but this is 2 in a row for Iggy's setups where he has that little, he sets his foot, he shifts his weight forward, he rocks, and then he starts his move, right? So you've got a big loop feint here. He steps and shifts the hips in as he closes distance, angles the sword, getting ready for that stab. And Bolt does see it. Now this is usually pretty good because if you can get them to swing out, right? Like if you can get them to swing from out here early, then what happens is this pocket ends up not just staying there, but it actually widens out. You get a lot more surface area that you're potentially able to stab as long as they don't shift everything over to cover. Now he misses the stab, gets the block, turns it over. I'm going a little slow here. We'll speed it up just a touch. Yep, and then throws over top of Bolt's sword into the arm and torso, and then he jumps again for the torso. That's good. All right. Backhand. So it looks like he got that one. So he starts with the backhand, crosses over. So one of the things that we see Bolt doing quite a bit is this very kind of like track star stance, right? Knees are bent pretty well, torso is pretty well aligned, but his legs are, kind of athletic positioned. He's ready to push off. Whereas oftentimes we're also seeing Ignatius jumping off the ground, right? So he's leaving the ground for extra extra height. It's not wrong, but I think there's better ways that he could do that while maintaining his position and his guard. Let's see here. Okay. Bolt draws him out. That's a nice 1-2 where he throws from a safe kind of upper quadrant guard. Outside. Nope, no, it wasn't a 1-2 like I thought. Okay. Loses the arm of the cross, which is always a poor position to be in. You take your opponent's shield arm, you lose your sword arm in the process. And then catches him before the trade.
Iggy 3.
Okay. He's starting to make his way back. Okay, a little body feint. Yep. There it is again. Okay, so again we see it. So they're setting up the fight, right? He shifts forward, rocks his weight, hands come up, circle feint, and now he did throw a pump into that one. Circle feint, started to pump at the shoulder, at the shield side shoulder, throws the cross, and gets that dark side that he was looking for in fight number 2. Really clean work. Good stuff. And oftentimes, like, small punch, you really kind of have to be
Is that Bolt one?
proactive,
Iggy 4.
aggressive with your setups and force them to make bad decisions. And small punch like that. Another dump to the hand. He's very confident. He's feeling himself. You can see the confidence there. Problem is, it doesn't look like it worked out. He's maintaining a good range, but he preemptively crossed his shield under, and because his torso is kind of already turned and his feet are again very far apart, it limits his ability to turn himself further, because what might have helped here, even if his hand is in this position, right, if he can rotate his torso back this way slightly and adjust the shield edge from here up to here, right, then he can get a meaningful block. Problem is, because his torso is already turned pretty hard, and his hips can't really turn very much because his feet are so far apart, he's pretty well compromised. This is going to be an arm only block. Additionally, because he's caught mid step, there's really not a whole lot you can do to block with your feet, to block with your body. If somebody catches you stepping, oftentimes your block is just kind of reduced to whatever your hands can do. So it's a great idea to try and catch somebody stepping and just see if you can punish them for where their hands are weak, right? So he loses the arm, and Bolt just goes ahead and keeps the pressure on. Cool spin. So we are seeing now Bolt is pretty confident, pretty comfortable here, it looks like. He's able to walk comfortably into guard. Now again, he's doing this repeatedly, right? Where his shoulders are way behind his hips, his heel is down, and he can't move effectively. He's not going anywhere from here, right? He can't move backwards. He's not going to be able to move side to side because his feet are in pretty much a straight line. Right? So what I would love to see Iggy do, instead of getting, off the ground like this, where he's a rocket man, he's flying through the air, right? Maybe if he starts from a low position, shifts his shoulders up slightly, right? And threatens high, but then his right foot, instead of stepping, instead of going up, takes a passing step this way so that he can attack the hip here. Because if he can get Bolt to rock back like this consistently, then a fake, body fake or some type of sword feint, some type of threat over here to force Bolt back like this, is going to mean that hip and that butt is open so often, right? So that would be something I'd really like to see from Iggy. On the other hand, Bolt, he gets this win by staying stable. He's able to get solid blocks. Not back far enough. So block, throw. He forces Iggy's hand in place, right? And then immediately throws underneath it. So that's something else we can look at, right? Fancy spins aside. So he throws outside, throws up and across, and it looks like he actually gets the hand or the arm, judging by the way that Iggy might be moving, but it's hard to tell. It looks like it might land on the pommel or underneath it. Can't really say. And he's already moving off of that to attack that hip. You notice his shoulders rotating through. His hips are coming through. The only thing that I think would make this better is if instead of this kind of shoulder turn, right, where he's off the back foot and stepping through and where his foot's off the ground for a long time, right? Because if Iggy does get that block and he's not down, then Bolt is dead to rights, right? So what I'd love to see is where instead of instead of the spin through necessarily, right? Something a little more akin to money, because right here he's got the angle for the hit. His foot is already moving. If his foot, instead of coming up here and then just spinning through and loop-de-loo, instead he steps off this way as well. He protects himself in the event that he misses, right, or that it's blocked, because he keeps his board between his opponent and himself. He moves at an angle where he should be able to immediately follow up to the board side shoulder or start attacking to the board side hip. I think it'd just be a little bit more, optimal. I know we're not here for optimal 100% of the time, but as far as this is concerned, it does look cool. It was, and obviously he got the shot. It's like Nature said, it's hard to argue with W's, but that just might be a slightly better way to protect yourself with other options. Okay, so maintaining range, feeling it out. Got caught reaching. Okay, nice attempt at a little scoop, and then a good level change from Bolt. And I just want to go back and see where he lost the arm here. Wow, right up there on the elbow, too. And so this is one of the things you got to watch out for when you constantly want to go high. I've never met Ignatius in person, but from what I gather, I think they're, a little taller, closer to 6 foot and above. But I'm just guessing. And oftentimes those guys want to go high, a lot. So one of the things for Iggy to watch out for is these punishes when going high. I would wager that with a little bit of a cross feint or something like that beforehand, Bolt could probably land a dark side to the arm or to the body fairly consistently. And that's not to knock Iggy. I know he's been putting in a lot of work. It just, that seems like a habit that he is going to get caught on pretty often. So it's a good block there. Good way to maintain range. A little testing shot, and then, yeah, Bolt changes level as he closes. Okay, he throws the same thing again as his first one that got him a win, but it's a little too shallow. And that's one where I think a that's one where I think a lateral step to the right, or even to the left, would help. Just moving away and getting Bolt to turn. Okay, good aggressive close. He starts a cross backhand, cross chop.
85.
Okay. So what do we got here? Just it, and this one doesn't need to be too in depth, but it looks like we get a good. Let's see here. Okay, so big step, safe cross. That was fairly non-committal because the moment it touched, he was immediately rolling it over into a backhand. And then he's stepping again, or he's finishing his step rather. No, here it looks like he's stepping again, a little further, a little more of a passing step with his left foot. So it looks like he did 2 shuffles and a passing step. And that cross. All right, one more time, slow-mo, and then I'll just keep going. I know this is probably getting kind of long. Yep, okay, yeah. So Bolt throws out for the board side shoulder. One thing that I think would benefit Bolt here is throwing a long, extended backhand, not necessarily always a chop, because throwing that backhand where your hand is in towards your own center line, you can create threat on the opponent's board side, but you also protect your inside. And in this instance, it may have stopped him from losing his sword arm.
85.
Okay. And are we going to see the rock? Yep. No. Oh, nice hip. Hard to see. I mean, I would assume so, but... Okay, so he... Oh, that was good. Okay, so you notice he dips the sword as though he's crossing, as he steps. Now, he still steps, it looks like, straight forward, but he throws out and around, up underneath, and that's a really good angle. Look at that. Right, that's solid. Really good. Great knee flexion, great position. That's a really good shot. Okay, circle feint and then chop from way too far away.
Is that Simon? Okay. 87.
Okay, trying to get that dark side, the reach.
Bolt 10.
Yep, and then he gets caught dipping with his shield a little low. And it's good lateral movement from Bolt. So he does a little shift, drops into stance, recovers his position. Iggy's still low. He reaches too far. Okay, so let's wind this back just a little bit. This is our area right here. So again, this is another opportunity where if Iggy was setting these up as a complete part of a setup rather than a one-off, he would likely see a lot more success. So let's see here. So we got chop. And again, because see, like, I know I keep harping on this, but again, every time he blocks, Bolt's shoulders dip back. Now he recovers himself pretty quickly this time, right? And immediately throws. So I think he has seen that Iggy will often not necessarily follow up in the most advantageous way from there. So he throws a shot, he's back. Iggy's fully extended. That's almost a straight line up the body, right? Like, his back foot's off the ground. There's nowhere that he can go. He can't move from here. Bolt recovers, pushes off that back foot to gain a little bit of height as his shoulders shift upward. And he throws looks like a flat wrap over top. And again, Iggy's shield is super close to him, right? He brought it all the way back here, right next to his body. It's not projected out. And I think, had he projected it out like he did there originally, right? That was great. He has it way out. It's getting into Bolt's face. It's protecting his arm. If he, rather than pull everything back to where he is, right? Instead of pulling that all the way back to try and block there where he's at, if he instead keeps it out, follows Bolt's hand a little more patiently, then I think he, I think instead of it being here where as his hand retreats, right? So his hand's coming back, and you can see as, here we go. There we go. Hold on, get all mixed up with my buttons. Okay, so they're fully extended, right? Iggy's hands are going to start to come back as Bolt's hands go forward, and that's a very common, thing we see back and forth. But as he comes down, Bolt's hand is accelerating out and up and catches him over top here.
Bolt 10. Yep.
Yeah. So good fights. I want to I'm going to roll that back for just a moment here because there's just some things. So one of the things that we saw the most success on for Iggy was when he took control of the fights, right? By, let's see, where is it? Yeah, so he gets caught out, and then I think this is, yeah. So it's this one where he starts to build, right? And he's got this little like body rock, and it's very solid feint into hip. I think if he wants to see more, benefits from it, right? Then he needs to be stepping offline more often, because every time he did pretty much anything to threaten Bolt takes his position. His guard gets really compromised. So, Iggy, the moment that you can start punishing his hips when he rocks back like that, I think you've got Bolt's number. It's just going to be about you picking up the offside steps after you've threatened him, or as you're threatening him. So he throws his hips back, or throws his shoulders back, his hips are forward, his weight is where he can't move. He's probably going to throw high, because that's what so many people do from this position. All you've got to do, man, and, quote unquote, all you have to do, not to oversimplify, but all you should need to do is get him to this position, which it seems like you can do pretty consistently, and then pick which way you want to go, pick which hip you want beforehand, and use a feint to get there. Start high and throw money here as you step to the right, or do that little circle dark side feint to sword side hip, but maybe or shield side hip, and maybe step this way. Because what should happen is Bolt can't really move, right? He's stuck here. His, again, heel is down, shoulders are back behind his hips, his weight's back. He can't go anywhere from here. So what's going to happen is his torso is going to turn to try and follow you whichever way you go, meaning if you step, this way, then his sword side shoulder and sword side hip should actually get a little bit closer and more available for you. So that's my takeaways for you. Bolt, man, you did a really great job holding this all down. I think the main thing for you is going to be making sure to not get into this compromised position when you are pressed. And then just working on some variety. You both had really good exchanges where you controlled the fight. I didn't see a whole lot from either of you in regards to feints, certain like specific setups. You kind of, Iggy opened the fight pretty much the same way each time, and Bolt, you were able to usually punish him for it by throwing for the board side here, where his guard is dropping a little bit. But neither, you didn't really seem to lead the fight too often. Iggy, it looked like you were trying to lead it, but also you didn't see too much success because you didn't quite know what to do once you had the tempo, right? Like you were starting it off, but you started the same way most of the time, and you didn't really seem to have like a solid answer. So for both of you, what I'd recommend is working on developing new ways to get to one target on each quadrant, right? Whether that's each shoulder and each hip, and making sure you're not getting into these compromised, overly wide stances. This could go on forever. I could sit here and talk wax all day, but this is probably already long enough as it is. So thank you, and we'll call it there.